Hey Pierre, you are welcome. So this is peer booking, and if you have not signed up or if you have not set up as a coach, please do well to do that as soon as possible. So the biggest study mistake students make, and I'm your host. So because it's exam season, peer booking is organizing this free event to support students who are about to write exams on some mistakes they make so that they don't make mistakes. I believe that at the start of the year, you had a plan that this year you're going to increase your CW by 4, but you keep on using the incorrect or poor study habits or the poor study plan. So this event is to highlight some mistakes students do make and they don't realize and they keep on doing and they don't see the effects. So the real issue, most students are not failing because they did not study, right? They are failing because they believe they were studying. So it's an assumption that students have mostly that they are studying, right? Now, false preparation feels busy. Mostly if you are preparing, you feel like you've done a lot. So you have long nights, full notebooks, group chats, and cover slides. But real preparation leaves evidence. Your ability to recall, your ability to solve certain questions well, correct mistakes, and also have that calm confidence. It's what is necessary. Your long nights, your all forms of let's say long study that you do is simply to give you an assumption that you are actually you've studied, but not the reality. So we have to debunk the false preparation theory in this particular event. So the mistake here for the very first one that I'm going to talk about is what you call the false study trap. The false study trap. When you say the false study trap, there is the idea that students will come out of the exams hall and they'll say that I studied for so long, yet I could not answer these questions. I studied for so long, yet I could not do the work, or yet I failed. And they don't know what the problem is. Because if you ask them, they said that I did all that I could. I studied for 6 hours. I had group meetings. I went. In fact, I studied all night, and yet I could not study. So this is due to what we call the false study trap. Now the problem is that students feel productive because they are reading, they are highlighting, they are rewriting, or sitting with books for hours. But the brain only recognizes familiar words, and in that course of study, you don't put in the effort to recall the stored ideas for you to realize that yes, indeed, I have studied. So for you to work on the false study trap, what this event is going to highlight is some few tips that will help you come to realization that no, you are not studying or you are studying wrongly, right? Yeah. So first of all, for you to avoid the false study trap, you need to really work on yourself. When I say work on yourself, I mean that you should make sure that you know yourself very well and you know who you are. That's the first thing in studying. If you want to study effectively, you should know who you are. So, first of all, know who you are and be so honest with yourself if you have actually understood, if you have actually if you have actually stored the information as you are learning, right? So your ability to recall is one of the most important parts of learning, right? So it helps you to keep track whether you are actually learning or you are not learning or you are just, scrolling the slides. So the false study trap is a popular mistake which students make, just assuming that I studied. So mostly, I don't buy the idea that students will say that I studied for long hours but yet nothing came out, right? I don't really buy the idea because of the false study trap. So just highlight this, put it down, the false study trap as the first mistake students make. And at the end of the event, we're going to handle all this, or we take some necessary steps we should employ in your study pattern to help you get back on track. Another study mistake which people do is the no self-examination, right? It's very, very important. So students scroll through more slides instead of pausing to test what they just learned. Coverage without testing creates confidence that collapses when real questions appear. And this is especially true. I believe that anyone listening to me, you can relate. You know, if you don't examine yourself at the point of studying, you would have this idea that yes, I can do it. And you end up going to meet similar question you solved in the slide and you have forgotten the formula. If you have not forgotten the formula, there was this step which you had to maybe multiply something by something. You've forgotten and you don't know how to do it. Self examination is the most important part. Okay, if you are learning, have sessions for examination. Examination in the sense that find related problems, similar problems to solve. In our age, we are so fortunate to have AI, which is going to assist us in our studies. Just give this particular slide to the AI, the particular topic to the AI, ask the AI, I have just gone through these topics within my slide. You can just give that part. Please set similar problems. You can make it tough, you can make it easier a little bit so that I can solve to ensure or to test myself whether I've actually understood the concept or I've just learned what is in it. So we can liken this to a situation in AI, which is I think popularly called overfitting, right? So if you train an AI model and it learns to remember what it has only learned, if you give it a new thing, it will never ever do it because it only knows what it has seen. That is similar to you not taking self-examination, testing yourself whilst you're learning. You are only copying what you have seen in the slides. And I bet you, if you see any new problem, you will struggle whilst you've learned that similar concept, right? So do not just cover materials, prove you can really answer it. There are so many tools you can use for examination, so many tools online. You have the Gobbing tool, which can help you to generate more problems, most flashcards, and so many questions which you cannot think about are available for you to do self-examination. Again, self-examination, you don't need to necessarily even ask the AI. Sometimes your peers, right? Assuming that you have a partner which you are studying with, you guys will study 1 hour individually, then you spend just 10 minutes or 15 minutes asking and answering questions. You ask, hey, what are the steps? Explain this, explain that. I bet you would remember that more than what you studied. If somebody is asking you a question and you are answering, you trying to think through to give an answer helps your brain to store what you learned. That is where you reinforced what you learned. So meaning that if you have somebody who is doing the self-examination with you, so that's more like um a pseudo examination, right? So you and your partner, we are just asking us. It may be group of three, group of four, group of five. You just be asking yourself so many questions, and I bet you at the end when you go to the exam hall, you will remember all that you mentioned in the discussion period more than what you individually, as you are learning, got. Another mistake which people make as the group study without rules. It's so interesting that during exams time, students gather to, let's say, we are going to spend the whole night in the library and they're happy about it. So they spend, they get their long socks, they get their long dresses, thinking that they're going to burn the midnight um, oil, right? And they end up talking, they end up making unnecessary conversations and a lot of distractions. So in the morning, you see a group of students coming back thinking they've gone to learn so much, but little would you know that they just studied effectively for just an hour, right? So what's the problem? Mind study becomes chatting, jokes, noise, social pressure, and we are all studying energy. I believe that you get this right. So the group feels serious, but nobody is being forced to recall, solve, or defend answers, right? So in group studies, prior to examination, if you have a paper the next day and you are learning as a group, right? If you don't put rules that, hey guys, we are all going to study individually in the next 2 hours, in the next 30 minutes you'll be asking ourselves questions, then you move into individual studying again, then you have this discussion. If you don't have any laid down rules, I bet you the partners or the people you went to the library to study with, if it's not a library, if it's just a study room, the people you went there to study with will end up being distraction. And interestingly, I realized that anytime group of people go to study and one of them is being destructive, it's very hard for you to shut the person down. Colleagues, you end up, responding to every unnecessary comment, responding to and sometimes you feel like, no, I wish I didn't come with these people, and you cannot tell them directly. So if you don't have people that you think you can go on an agreement with that, hey, these are the rules, and as you have come here, we are not going to do this, you're not going to do that, then don't dare. Another thing I would say is, if you are having a group study prior to exams, at the individual learning stages, please separate yourselves. If it's possible that one person will go far apart, another person will go far apart, please do. Lest, even if it's not talking, sometimes the distraction may not be talking. Seeing the screen of a colleague you came to study with alone can be a distraction on its own, which you should avoid, right? If your friend is, let's say you're doing the same slide, this guy is on the 20th slide, and meanwhile you are on the 10th slide, that alone gives you an indirect pressure which you don't realize. Okay, so if you don't have rules for your groupings, then please separate. When you are learning individually, come together only when you are going to discuss and solve questions. So the key here is that group study should have questions, rules, time, and silence blocks. If you don't have these, please, you have to dissolve the group, I would say. I say it again. You should have questions. Number one. Number two, roles. Number three, time. And number four, silence blocks, which the silence block is the most effective part, because that is where individually each and every one of you get to understand what you're learning better. Another mistake is the distraction heavy study. Distraction heavy study. Now, phones, notifications, music, random conversations, and multitasking break concentration repeatedly. Interestingly, some students, when you ask them, yes, they'll respond quickly. Yes, I feel good when I'm learning with music. Yes, I'm the type that I learn with music and all that. But have you realized that anytime you are under pressure and you have some serious exams ahead of you, and you've not studied enough, you put away every phone, you put away every music. Like, the music becomes a noise. That is where you should realize that the brain at the point of concentration, I bet you, if you dedicate some aspects or some portion of your brain for the music, it will still cost you. If you want to have an effective study, please do away with distraction heavy study, because if you want to study with music, it should be when you want to revise something briefly, something you've learned before, or you are doing some calculation, solving more examples. That one, it makes more sense to, do with your music. But at the intensive absorption stage, please don't dare to distract yourself with music. Okay. Now, phones and notifications, that is what is killing people now. Now, students cannot just look inside a book. Even they are learning with their laptops, which gives the notifications itself. So they are learning with a destructive material. It's so unfortunate that most learning materials are not hard copy but soft copy. So if you don't force stop most of the apps, your WhatsApp, please do force stop. You can just go to the settings, you force stop WhatsApp. Even though you are online, it wouldn't allow you to, it wouldn't allow new messages to come. It will show to others that you are not there, right? So any form of distraction, please put that app or that software on a force stop, and avoid responding to notification, because immediately you start to concentrate, there will be an interesting notification, probably from your boyfriend or your girlfriend or somebody you respect so much, or somebody you love so much, and you wouldn't be able to hesitate to take the phone. That breaks concentration. It will happen now, it will happen again, happen, and before you realize, you've spent 4 hours beside the book, but ideally you've only studied for 30 minutes. Attention keeps restarting, so a 3-hour session may contain only 30 minutes of deep work. The key here is a distracted session is longer but weaker. So take this from me. Now, all night study that wastes nights. This one too is a big hell. What's the problem? Students study awake overnight, but doze off every hour or two, and study only a scope, a small scope badly. Okay, so students stay awake overnight, but doze off every hour or two, and study only a small scope badly. Now, when you go to the library or you go to your study room for studying, right, you realize that you spent the whole night, all right, to study, but effectively or ideally, you've not studied enough. When does this happen? You realize that Anytime you are learning at night and you feel sleepy, but you are struggling and forcing yourself to learn, you open your eyes that you are on page 21. You feel like you are dozing off, and before you realize, you will open your eyes in the next 1 hour and you are on page 23. So let's say you were dozing off and you were on slide 21 when the time was 1 a.m. You doze off and you open your eyes, slide 22, and you check the time, it's 4 a.m. And you're like, whoosh, I wasted my time. But you leave the library, you leave your study area, and it will impress people, it will impress your roomies that this person, like, I mean, study a lot during exam. This person study a lot. This person stay overnight to study. Meanwhile, that is not so. Meanwhile, that is not so. So students stay awake overnight, but those of every hour or two is a problem which you can relate to. And I'm going to tell you what you should do, okay, for you to get rid of this. Sleep loss reduces memory, focus, emotional control, and speed during the actual exams. Now, the key here is tired reading is not deep reading. Tired reading is not deep reading. So make sure that anytime you go to learn, you do well to make sure that you are not dozing off. One advice I give to people is that if you are studying, okay, and you are dozing off or you feel sleepy, don't force yourself to avoid it or to I mean, let's say to inhibit it, right? No. Please put your head down, put your book down. You can close your laptop, take a nap of just 20 minutes, I bet you, and wake up. If there is a friend beside you, you can tell the person, I'm pushing my head down for the next 15, 20 minutes. Once time reaches, wake me up. I bet you wake up and you feel refreshed. Never try to overcome sleep simply by forcing yourself. Sometimes you can stand and still be dozing off, right? Sometimes you can be doing all that you can, but you still, some people even go to the extent of drinking, taking energy drinks, but yet doesn't work. You still feel sleepy. So the real solution to you avoiding sleep or dozing off is just put your head down 15, 20 minutes. It will cost you that time, but I bet you it's worth the time that's going to be wasted by dozing off and trying to be like you are learning. Now, peer pressure and panicking. There's also one big mistake students make, right? Peer pressure and panic reading. The problem is that students copy the timetable, fear, and habits of others instead of following a personal plan. Mostly, when you go to the study room, you see people learning. If they are in your program or if you are in the same class with them, I bet you the pressure is extremely, extremely high. Sometimes you see this person, and when you see some diagram that or some questions the person is solving, instantly you feel discouraged that hey, I can't solve this. I mean, what's this guy doing or what's this lady doing? I mean, that is peer pressure and panicking. It affects students a lot whenever they are studying. They get discouraged, like they get discouraged. Assuming you have a paper tomorrow 8 a.m. or early morning and you are solving a problem, you don't even know the variables to use. And a friend of yours will just come, a friend that you know you fool with will come and solve this question simply, and you'll be sitting down quietly. You end up not learning, but thinking about the fact that your friends are moving forward and you don't sit upright. So studying pressure makes students jump from topic to topic, abandon weak areas, and confuse movement with progress. So let's see something. You start to learn a particular course, you've taken the slides. Generally, students know their weakness. Going to class, you know that there's these two, three topics which they don't understand. Maybe let's say calculus or let's say any other course which you can think about, statistics or anything. You realize that there are some parts of this course that I don't understand. So at my sitting, I'm going to take this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to cover this, I'm going to cover that. If your friend sets in and fear comes in, you realize that this person is solving a problem under this topic, which you were not supposed to have learned that at that sitting. Because you've seen that, instantly you move back and you go and read that. You see this person's screen, you move back, you go and read that. Then it means that your entire sitting is a mess. Please, your brain is yourself, and your brain is you. Let me say it that way. You know your brain more than anyone else, right? Never be pressured, because even though you be using the same learning strategy, remember the brains are not the same. If your friend is consuming at a rate of 50 words per minute, probably yours may be 25, probably yours may be 60 or even 70. So make sure you know yourself. Never fall to fear. or panic as a result of a friend's learning or study strategy. Then you also move to poor food, hydration, and energy habits. So some people skip meals, drink too many energy drinks, take little water, or rely on caffeine to survive revision. The body powers the brain. Poor energy habits make focus unstable and memory weaker. Now, a lot of times people invest into how do I study, what topic am I studying, forgetting that the brain and the system which is going to consume this information needs to be powered, needs to have the best conditions before you consume and remember. The food you eat, taking in more water, I mean being hydrated, get your water bottle, be taking water consciously. Then also the environment you are, right? They all contribute to your success in studying. Never underrate it. When you go to a room with a very good lightning, right? A very, very good lightning, and you have um everything on point. So okay, let me talk about just the food. So I mean, don't eat food that's gonna push your memory down, right? You don't eat food that's gonna push your memory down. Probably instead of you taking caffeine or energy drinks, you can better make some hot coffee drink. You know, the temperature of the hot coffee drink alone is gonna heat you up, right? So you got to be in the right posture when you are about to study. So your study plan must include water, food, sleep, and moderation. These are important things many students omit in their study plan. They don't write the kind of food they want to eat. They don't write the amount of time they want to sleep. They just sit down and they're learning until sometimes they don't even know when to stop. They don't even have any plan at a sitting, right? So please, this is a very severe mistake people are making. And there's a bad environment and no exam strategy. So students study in noisy, uncomfortable places and sometimes ignore past questions or the lecture style. Now, it's good to learn, it's good to study, but please, one way to help yourself in examination preparation is learning what is needed, what is useful, instead of just learning, right? So, learning what is needed, what is useful, what do I mean? I mean that you try your best possible to make sure that this and this and this and this that lecturers made mention of, or you better go and see senior course mates, go and see colleagues who attended the class, the last class, on the direction which the lecturer made mention of. Any likely question from people who have written that course, you have to make sure that you are using strategies to learn. It's not worth it learning for 4 5 hours. Meanwhile, what you learned is not what's going to come, right? Probably you have a lecturer who always bring objectives or MCQs, right? And you spend so much time on something chewing or something which is way off, you end up learning, but you wouldn't get the best because of lack of strategy. Now, point of correction. I don't mean that if your senior coursemate says your lecturer brought session B, it means that go and learn particularly for that. But we have what you call weight. Your learning weight should be more towards that part as a recommendation. Spend 60% of your time on that and 40% on others. You can spend 70/30. You can put in more weight on likely things. That's what I mean. Instead of you trying to cram, understand the whole lecture note, lecture slides. Meanwhile, there are some few sections where the lecturer is interested. With regards to the bad environments, which is so important, please do make sure that you have a very good lighting. If you're studying, study at places where the lightnings are good. It even helps you to stay awake, and the environment is also will also help you to, I mean, memorize, learn very well. Then probably you can even add taking your bath as an example, because your environment is your body, it's also part. So if you take a bath, you're going to have a very good feeling, you're going to learn better rather than you hopping onto your book, hopping onto your laptop, trying to get everything because time is going. Some people, because time is going, they don't even bath, right? And that is an error. You don't control your recallability. Because of that, you do your best possible to train and give the best to the brain, so that at least if it's going to record 10, it can record at its optimum, right? So study where you can focus and practice how the exam will test you. Never study where you know there is a television somewhere. Never study where people are watching reels and making noise. You are distracting yourself, right? Now, how do you fix your study? So after talking about all this and wrapping up, how do we fix all this? You set a clear goal when you are sitting. I'm going to solve topic A, topic B. Don't check people screen. Don't look left, don't look right. Make sure you set clear targets. If it's a group, set clear targets as well. Then recall before reading. So recall before rereading. So close the notes, write what you remember, then check and correct. It's very important. That is also fixing the self-examination mistake. Practice the practice like the exam. This one is very important. You are practicing and solving a question, and you were able to get the question right. But that single question, you spend 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Is that the same time you are going to use in the exams? No. That means that there's an error here. Practice like the exam. We call it simulating exam conditions. Some people are very good understand the course, but they are too slow for them to catch up with the course. For that reason, they miss out everything. So practicing like the exam, set your time that hey, I'm going to solve this question. I need to solve 10 within 10 minutes. If you solve even in 11 or 12 minutes, you have failed. Not that you got the question wrong, but because you couldn't meet the time criteria. So getting the question wrong or learning or preparing for exam doesn't always go for accuracy, right? It's not the accuracy that we need. It's about timing plus accuracy. So if you don't have the speed to write stuff, the speed to explain, the speed to solve, I bet you may have the knowledge and they'll say stop work. Now using Pomodoro breaks, people don't really use these techniques, and I bet you the Asians love this. You can learn 12, 13 hours without feeling sleepy. Why? You take necessary breaks and you do active engagement of your muscles for each break. Yes. Then finally, you protect your energy and your space, as I've gone through and I've told you. Now, the final rule: real studying produces proof, that is answers, corrections, and confidence. And that brings us to the end of this event, and it's the floor is available for some few questions, then we are good to go. So this is just a 30 minutes event, which we don't want to consume so much. So this is peer booking once again, and if you haven't signed up, well, maybe the link to peer booking is peerbooking.live, right? You just search peerbooking.live and you are going to get peer booking page. You book a tutor, right? For anything, any consultation. My profile is there. We have great and similar coaches like me there, which we can have one-on-one session. This is an event because of that. It's not personalized. I can know your problem and how best you can draw a very nice steady structure, right? So this is peer booking once again. Okay. So any question, if you have any question, you can ask at this moment.
Um, yes.
Okay. I'm all ears.
So, how do you balance trying to, like, when you have a lot of things to cover and understanding, do you think you should focus on understanding concepts or like,
Okay. I think I'm getting the direction you're going. You're trying to say that what if you have a lot of things to cover, you are lagging behind, and you have to um, also, understand and recall. Now, for this issue, for you to solve this issue, is so simple, and I think that you have to write down. Okay, you take your book, then you write all the things you need. How do you go about? Yes. So I'm saying it. So this is what I'm trying to say. Take a book, write all the areas which the lecturer has made mention or had pinpointed. And what you're going to do is you will sit and time yourself that I have how many hours do I have in total? Let's say I've started to study at 6 p.m. and the paper is 8 a.m. the next day. I'll calculate from 6 p.m. to 12 is like 6. Then I also have from maybe I can add 3 more hours. Then let's say 9, 10. So let's say I have approximately 10 hours to study about 10 to 15 things the lecturer has made mention of. You know something? It is better you chop each of them slowly and also in a way to, let's say, it's better to handle each item effectively than rushing through and you end up losing all, right? So out of the 15, please don't pressure yourself to capture everything. If a lecturer even highlight that this and this are coming, it's area before you realize about five of them, he's gonna bring just two questions, but try to merge, right? So don't put the pressure on yourself to make sure you complete thoroughly like that. Take your time. You let's say you take the first set. For the first one, this is what I'm learning. In the next 45 minutes, give yourself time. In the next 45, after the 45 minutes, if you're able to finish that particular slide, hooray. If not, you borrow, let's say, 15 minutes. But make sure that every each time you borrow, you put the compensation, you draw something like compensation table, right? You borrowed 15, you write it down. Then you move to the second one quickly. And after timing, if your sleep time is up, right, or it's time for you to go and sleep and you still have things to, don't worry. Don't pressure yourself that, hey, I still have more to cover. You can go and sleep and wake up early in the morning, cover the rest. What I'm trying to say is, it's not enough to necessarily cover everything without recalling. You don't control recallability. I bet you claim that you've learned everything, you end up and you go and see a question and it will even seem that you haven't learned it before, especially for definitions. If you know there is this definition which is likely to come in the evening, you you cram everything and you go there. What is this? You see that same question. I bet you start and you miss just a single word. That single word will make it look as if you never learned that definition. So don't be interested in covering everything, but be interested in knowing what you know, so that if this particular question come, me, I'll kill it. If you have that confidence, it's enough than to say that whatever come, I can do it with that little confidence. So please, my answer in summary is that don't put more weight on covering everything, everything, everything. Learn what you know and you think that you can do. If you're able to cover 70%, very well, very well, very well, and you brush through the rest, it's far better than not mastering any part but brushing through the entire thing. I don't know if your question is answered in a way.
Yes, please. It has been answered. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. So I think our time is up. It's 7:06. So that is a bye for everyone. Thank you so much for joining this event. Please, as usual, don't forget to, you can also refer friends. That's one thing I've not made mention of. Refer your friends. If you get